Hi, good afternoon. An extra show for you. Zero tolerance on fare dodgers, but I'd take it further. We now need zero tolerance on things like shoplifting, so called low level crimes. They're not just wrecking the capital, London, they are wrecking the country. And what are the leaders doing? Starmer, people like that? Nothing. Mayor Khan in London, zero. We've got to come down hard like they did in New York in the Big Apple. They got tough on low level crime. They then found out it had a knock on effect to other crime as well in the 90s. They called it the broken window philosophy. And I met the guy who came up with it, head of police Bill Bratton at the time. I actually met him on the streets of New York, and I'm going to tell you what he told me about how this can work. But we need zero tolerance. 1 in 25 people on London's tube are not paying. People are afraid to go up to them in case they've got a knife. This weekend, the Shadow Secretary for Crime and Justice, Robert Jenrick, who's a bit of a publicity whore, if you know what I mean, but he went down to Stratford Station in London and he watched these people jumping the barriers. It's not on. It's wrong. And you know what's worse? There were people there from Transport for London and the police, and they turned a blind eye to it. I say no. I say the time for allowing graffiti idiots to spray their tags all over our public buildings like feral dogs and feral cats is over. Let's have zero tolerance. Forget about legalizing drugs and cannabis, Mayor Khan, and do the basics. Do the basics, you idiot. So, London, I say, is out of control. I say the rest of the UK is going that way as well. Fare dodgers, shoplifters, and vandals are running riot. It is time for zero tolerance. Are you with me or against me? If you are watching it as we start now, feel free, just make a comment. I'm not expecting many people to be watching live because this is an extra show. I'm testing out the tooth, if I'm honest with you. Had some emergency dental work done yesterday, so I couldn't make a podcast then. So I'm making it now. If you agree with me, tell me. If you disagree, that's fine. But I say we need zero tolerance. I'm with Robert Jenrick on this. Don't forget, I will be doing my usual show as long as my mouth holds up at 6:30 as well. But take advantage of this extra one if you fancy. Peter Adams, he's our first person on today. He says, prepare for a shock, John. I am 100% with you on this one. Good stuff. You are not going to agree on everything, are we, Peter? That's the idea of debate. That was on YouTube. Matthew Stafford says, afternoon, John. As a train conductor for over 30 years, the fare dodging is absolutely rife. I've never seen it this bad. Well, I tell you what, Matthew, I really appreciate what you've said, and it must be scary doing your job. But I'm telling you, today I put up a tweet saying I agree with Robert Jenrick, thinking a lot of people would agree with me. But no, loads of people saying, oh, no, what, you'd rather the police be concentrating on that? Well, the answer is yes. And the majority of people seem to think it didn't matter. Well, it does. It does matter. Just like clamping down on graffiti. And I'm going to explain in this podcast, in this broadcast, why it's so important. I'm glad that Jenrick has brought it up again. It comes up once every year or so, but I think it's vital. And it's about the built environment. It's about how we live our lives. I don't want the feral, low-life scum to take over. I want the decent, silent majority to be able to travel, have nice property, have nice houses, have nice cars, without some low-life thug taking it off them or wrecking it for them. Are you with me or against me? Let's have your views, please. I say it's time for a crackdown on fare dodgers on the London Underground and beyond. Robert Jenrick, he's the Tory Shadow Minister for Justice, like I say. He said that this is what he wants, and I'm with him. But I'm going to go even further. We need a zero tolerance policy like the one that cleaned up New York in the 90s. I remember going to New York before this happened. You were scared stiff. You might go to Times Square, but you wouldn't go to any of those streets off it because you thought you might get mugged. After they'd implemented zero tolerance, broken windows, whatever you want to call it, it cleaned up New York. I went back after this period. I went back when I met Bill Bratton, then I went a couple of years later. I've been quite a few times to New York, and now it's safe. I would say that New York, the centre of New York, is safer than the centre of London. I'd go further. I think on lots of levels, it's safer at night than bloody Coventry, my hometown. Why? Because they clamped down on the small things, and that led them to the bigger things. Because the whole idea of broken windows is if you leave a broken window, you'll know this yourself in your house. If you don't fix the roof in the summer, come the winter, you're going to have a lot more problems. And this was what they did. I saw another report today about tube trains and the way they're vandalized and graffitied. No, it was like that in New York. I remember when I met Bill Bratton. He's an ex-Vietnam veteran, right? Hard as nails. He went on to become chief of police, I think, in Los Angeles. He did want to become chief of police in London. But guess what? The civil servants wouldn't have it. No, you've got to be British. Oh, that was a great decision, wasn't it? Look at the idiots we've had since. A few notable exceptions, but mostly they've been uber liberal, rainbow lace tying morons who don't actually clamp down on the things that matter to me and you. So Bill Bratton, I met him in New York on the street. It was when I was with Talk Radio, I think, or BBC London. BBC London the first time. And I said, well, how did you do it? How did you clean up the subway? And he just fixed me. He had these bright blue eyes. He just fixed me and he said, a carriage at a time. It was like Clint Eastwood or something. Basically what he was saying, yes, there was graffiti in all the carriages, on all the carriages. And they just decided to do one at a time and clean it up. And anybody who was found with paint, they put basically in prison. They cleaned up New York. Incredible. It was incredible. But in London now, we've got 1 in 25 people using the tube are not paying. We just heard from that conductor there ourselves. He says it's out of control. It's rife. But you see, it doesn't just stop there. We're also seeing a massive rise in vandalism, a massive rise in graffiti. I'm not talking about Banksy type graffiti, although I don't particularly like that if he does it on buildings that he doesn't own. But I'm talking about where they just put up their tag. In Coventry, there's some moron going around putting up the word smile. I'd wipe the smile off that bastard's face in one. And it must be easy to find out who it is. Go to any school. I bet he puts it on his books or on his pencil case as well. That just has to be a will to do it. And at the moment in this country, and particularly on the underground, there is no will to fix the problem. I understand it partly because of knife crime in London as well, which again is Sadiq Khan's fault. That moron wants to legalise cannabis. He came up with some idea, oh yeah, it's important, especially for ethnic minorities. What on earth is he on about? It's got nothing to do with the colour or your ethnicity. I don't mind if people smoke dope personally, but I found recently the dope smoking is out of control. And it isn't like spliff when we were kids. It isn't cannabis. It's skunk. And it's really, really, really strong. I just can't even stand the smell of it. I like the smell of, what you call weed, old-fashioned weed. But the smell of this new stuff is just horrid. Clamp down on it. I'm going to tell you about when I went to California as well, where they have partly legalized cannabis, because these things are linked together. But Khan seems to think it's more important for racial tensions to relax cannabis. There's no surprise that one of Tony Blair's right-hand men is behind his drugs council. No surprise. Charlie Faulkner, Fatty Faulkner, we used to call him, when he was Attorney General. He has lost a lot of weight. I thought if you smoked dope, you put it on. Oh, maybe he's not smoking it. In my show later, by the way, I'm going to be talking about your man Starmer. He is frit. Nigel Farage is living in his head, and it's funny to watch. I want to clamp down on littering as well. Zero tolerance and shoplifting. How much longer are we going to allow people just to walk into a shop, take anything they want off the shelves? I see in Greggs now, they're putting all the rolls or sandwiches or batches, as we call them in Coventry, behind the counter. So you can't just come in and pick one up and say, I'll have this one, please. Because what people are doing is they're just coming in and taking all of them out of the fridge. This is the Jon Gaunt my tooth isn't quite right. It is the Jon Gaunt podcast, whatever you want to call it. We are live now on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, my channel, Jon Gaunt TV. But I say it's time for action. And I say it starts with a change in attitude. And that has to start with the Prime Minister, and then in London or in the big towns with the Mayor. Are you listening, Sadiq Khan? You are a disgrace. You have wrecked the greatest capital in the world. Well, more or less. On a sunny day, it certainly is. When you get to London and you walk across the bridges, it's beautiful. But it is now completely populated by the scum of the earth who are getting away with murder, literally. Are you with me or against me? This is the Jon Gaunt Show. I don't know how long I'm going to do. I'll see how long the hole in my tooth, the hole in my mouth, I should say, lasts. I'm all for zero tolerance. I have to pay my way, says Jackie Ward on YouTube. I have to obey the rules. Anyone doing otherwise should feel the full force of the law. And sadly, that's lacking these days. Well, you're right, Jackie. And it's like with shoplifting, isn't it? I think people see these reports about these kids and these middle-aged people just going into shops and taking all the food. And then they think, well, why am I such a mug? Why am I paying for everything? And then we get the self-scanners because the supermarkets don't want to employ anyone. I would ban the self-scanners tomorrow because it is tempting, isn't it? To think, well, everyone else is on the nick. I just won't put those toilet rolls through. Or that fillet steak, that's going to go straight in the bag. Yeah. Unexpected item on the scales. Not if you don't put it on there in the first place. But now I see they've got cameras. So now we're being surveyed. It's the surveillance cameras. I think it's really scary. And it's because we haven't got on top of shoplifting. You get on top of the low-level stuff. This is what Bill Bratton told me in New York. What they found was when they started arresting people for jumping the barriers, like him behind me there, they then found these people had other criminal offences or were involved in drug pushing or drug selling. So they did them for that as well. Clamp down on the low-level stuff. Fix that broken window and your house will stay up. Do you agree with me? This is the Jon Gaunt Show. Don't forget, it's available on repeat straight after the show. You can get it on Jon Gaunt TV, which is my YouTube channel. You can also get it back again on Twitter and on Facebook. You can also listen on the podcast. And if you are listening on the podcast, thank you very much. The numbers are going through the roof there. So I'm very, very pleased with that. It works as a podcast and it works as a broadcast. That's what I wanted to achieve. Next thing is we start having some live guests and then some phone calls and then we'll be your way. But I'll tell you something. It's going well. And I really missed doing one yesterday, although I was in agony. I was a big boy, though, went to the dentist and he said, well, I can't really feel that. I can take it out. He said, I can make an appointment for you or I could do it now. All I saw was Lisa, my wife's face. If I'd said, okay, do it in 2 weeks' time, she'd have gone mental. So I had to be a big boy and say, do it now. And to be honest with you, brilliant job. No pain. It's obviously now hurting because that's where he's pulled the tooth out. But I used to be scared of the dentist. But it's nothing like it used to be. It's another podcast, another day. But why is dentistry not included on the NHS? Why can't you not? I couldn't get a national health one. I had to go private. Because they've all got their slots filled up. And I'm not blaming the dentists. The dentists are getting ripped off. That said, there was a lovely Tesla in the drive. There was a lovely Audi and there was a huge big BMW. So they're not skint, but you know what I'm saying. Sorry, I digress. Back to crime. Sadiq Khan turned Tooting into a dump, and now he's done it in London, says Denise. You're right. How does he ever get elected? Oh, I wonder how. But anyway, he wants to be mayor again, doesn't he? The guy is an... Ant Middleton, if we got him there, imagine how he'd clean up London. It'd be like the Terminator. Henry Ives says we need a Mayor Rudy Giuliani regime in every town and city in the UK. We need zero tolerance. Well, Henry, I didn't meet Mayor Giuliani. I met him afterwards at another event. But I did meet the man who actually came up with it. It wasn't Rudy. It was Bill Bratton's idea. And you imagine what London will be like now if we had the guy who cleaned up New York. Remember it when you watched it on Kojak, how bad it was? He cleaned it up. Imagine if he'd come and done London. London wouldn't be the stinking, crime-ridden cesspit it is. Let down again, guys, by the civil service and the politicians, because they'd rather have a rainbow warrior, let's talk about diversity, rather than somebody who wants to nick baddens and lock them up for a long time. We've got a government, for God's sake, who want to release dangerous criminals. Next week, they're releasing them. Yeah, they're releasing people who have committed horrendous crimes because the prisons are full. Did they ever think long term ago? I'm not having a go here at the Conservative Labour. I get them mixed up. The Conservatives should have built more prisons. But the bottom line is there's no long-term thinking, is there? Meanwhile, we've got an invasion happening in Dover. We don't even know who those people are. And crime will continue to go through the roof because we haven't fixed the window. If you agree with me, please join in. So it's Mayor Giuliani and it's Bill Bratton. I'd love your views if you'd like to join in. Peter Adams lives in Hungary, and he says here in Hungary, 3 teenagers were caught putting graffiti in the park. The penalty was they were made to clean it all up at 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning following a public announcement. Love it. Love it. Name and shame. I think we should do that. I think we should have that as well, Peter. Good idea. I mean, I'd have them litter picking in orange jumpsuits. I'd make them look like the inmates of Guantanamo Bay, because these people who do graffiti, people who litter, people who don't pay to go on public transport, people who carry knives, they are terrorists in a way. They're urban terrorists, and they're ruining the quality of life for the rest of us. Am I going mad? Am I too extreme? Press the like button if you do agree with me. Press it even if you don't, if you're just entertained. And I'm sorry I look such a mess. My mouth and my face is so sore, I can't have a shave at the moment. Tony Hodgson's son on YouTube says, people thieving is partly why the prices keep rising in the supermarket, not just inflation. Well, I'd go a little bit further than that. I think the supermarkets are using it as an excuse as well to put the prices up. The supermarkets could cut the amount of shoplifting tomorrow. Get rid of those self-scanners. Let's have proper people who you can have a conversation with. I don't agree with self-scanners. I think they're a disgrace. I think they break down communities. You may have a different view. Let me hear it. Let's have your opinion. Right. So let's go through a few more of these things. 1 in 25 passengers are dodging fares. What about the rise in vandalism? Is that happening where you live? That isn't just a London phenomenon, is it? And I like the way that guy said in Hungary, Peter said, they caught somebody doing graffiti. They had them in the park 10 o'clock in the morning, cleaning it up. But not just that, they actually told people those yobbos would be there doing it. I love it. Summary justice. Get it done. Get it sorted. You don't need to send them to court. Chief of police can decide. They know they're bloody guilty. Just get them cleaning it up. Yes or no? The same with vandalism. Why do we allow low-level vandalism to happen? You know, people smash a few windows. Oh, it's only that. It doesn't really matter. It's all part of urban life. I used to have idiots when I worked on BBC London saying that to me. Oh, it's part of urban life. That's like that idiot Khan saying cannabis is part of West Indian or the Caribbean culture. No, it's not. It's a racist comment that. Not everybody who comes from an Afro-Caribbean background is a dope smoker. And I'm actually not having a big go at dope smokers. I do think it acts as a kind of entry drug. I don't think you start smoking dope, but then you do ketamine and then you do coke and all that. I see that. I think that's a bit simplistic, but it mixes you in with people who are doing those things. And then there's a temptation, isn't there? I remember, see, again, when I was on BBC London, if you've been with me a long time, Paddock, he's now a Liberal Democrat. There's a surprise. Brian Paddock, who was chief of police for the Brixton area, he effectively decriminalised cannabis. And I had women, black women, mothers, ringing me up on my BBC London show saying, Gaunty, it's all okay for him. He doesn't live here. But if you live in Lambeth or if you live in Brixton, what will happen now is the big drug dealers will come in. And sure as eggs is eggs, that's what happened. It's illegal for a reason. And let's face it, hardly anyone gets done now for possession of a little bit of cannabis, right? The police do turn a blind eye. It works. It's working. It doesn't need fixing. It doesn't need making it easier. It's kind of a rite of passage, isn't it? The first spliff. I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying this is what happens. But this idea that we should just decriminalize or legalize it, I just think it's nonsense. Are you with me or are you against me? And these things are absolutely linked. And litter, that's another bugbear. I mean, I got another one on the trains. People who put their feet on the chairs and think that's acceptable. That's acceptable. What has happened just to basic decency and manners? Why have we allowed the feral, the feckless, the freeloaders to take over? And that's before I get on to some new arrivals who think it's perfectly acceptable to shit in the street or pee in a shop doorway. It's not acceptable. We, the public, need to stand up to it. Shoplifting on the industrial scale that's happening is not acceptable. A woman nicking food or baby products, maybe, but there's no way it's acceptable for other people. Am I wrong or am I right? I'm saying it's time for action. I'm saying it has to start at the top and at the bottom, i.e. us, the plebs, at the same time. We've got to say we don't want to live in this filth. People not picking up their dog poo. That's not the world we want to live in. People not sort of... I was at the train station the other week. I think I told you, and I was in the lift coming down. So I had my big cases. I was going to dog sit. And as we got out of the lift, there was two girls there, students at Coventry University, obviously. They didn't have big bags, but they were just fat and lazy. They wanted to use the lift. And when I said, excuse me, can you stand back a bit? Why don't you... Yeah, that's what they said. They didn't seem to understand basic manners, which is you let people out first before you go in. I just don't understand how this has happened. Do you? And if you do, could you tell me how we can cure it? How are we going to make it better? Because the lived environment, where we live, that's kind of vital to how we get on, isn't it? Or have I got this wrong? If you start to live in squalor, it'll only get worse. It won't get better. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let's see what else we've got on here then. Henry's saying, thank you for the clarification. He's talking about the fact that it was Bill Bratton who came up with zero tolerance. Tony Hodgkinson says, no. Ronnie Hurst says, this namby-pamby government don't do anything to criminals. Only law-abiding people get hammered. Yeah, look at Lucy Connolly. I agree with you. But it's not just this government. It was the last government as well. And it's the police chiefs. Their priority are all to cock. They are not, but we're not demanding it either. We're obviously putting up with this. My daughter, I'm really proud of her on one of her. She's really into sustainability and the rest of it. But when she goes for a walk with me with the dog, even in her village, if she sees some litter on the floor, she stops and picks it up. I have a laugh at her and say, you're like a bloody womble. But she's right. She says, I don't want to live in this, Dad. And that's in a lovely, quaint Oxfordshire village. Somebody's dropping it. And it can't all be urban yobbos. Do you see where I'm coming from? Let's get your views on that as well. Now, don't forget, I'm going to be back at 6:30 with another show. Going to be talking about the main thing I wanted to talk about today, which is Starmer and Farage. Somebody said to me, when are you going to stop talking about Starmer? When I've run him out of office. That's the answer. And I tell you today, he's right on the edge. I don't know how he's coping with it. He is so much living in Nigel Farage is living in his head. He even said, he's not even here today. He's at a casino. Well, yeah, he is at a casino in Las Vegas talking about, Bitcoin and all that kind of stuff. Looking to the future. I'm not defending him. But he said what he had to say a couple of days ago. And you clearly haven't got an answer. Apart from, the big boys have come now. Starmer, you're finished. Do the honourable thing. Don't use all your good lines now, John. Do the honourable thing. Resign and spend more time with your families. Your family. More of that at 6:30. Make sure you come back and join me then. If you're liking what I'm saying, if you do like what I'm trying to produce for these podcasts, please press the like button. And if you'd like to donate a bit of cash, you can go to www.buymeacoffee.com/Jon Gaunt and you can donate anything from $5 upwards. Alternatively, you can do it on YouTube by paying for a super chat or a super sticker. It's dead simple how to do it. You press that heart and it gives you the options. And I think that starts at £2 or £1 or something. All helps because at the moment I speak too much of the truth. So nobody in the mainstream, lamestream press will give me a gig. Oh, talking of which, Kia, another little bit of advice for you, mate. When the BBC and the Guardian start asking you questions in a press conference that you've called, like today, they all had to go up to meet him in some godforsaken northern place. I can't remember where it was. And then they started being nasty to him. I mean, Christopher Hope at GB News, he put the boot right in, but you expect that. But then, a great question, by the way, but then the BBC and the Guardian did the same thing. Basically said, well, everyone hates you. So why are you concentrating on Nigel Farage? If he's not a problem, the election's not for 4 years. Starmer knows his days are numbered. We'll talk more about that later tonight at 6:30. Right, where are we going next? Peter Adams again. £6 million spent on subsidies for UK MPs to use the restaurants at the House of Commons. Remove the subsidy and pay for some NHS dentists. Very good idea, Peter. I'd go further. How about taking away their first-class travel? How about making them have to go in cattle class with the rest of us? Then they might see the state of the railways, the litter, the graffiti, the fare dodging. Well, that guy at the beginning of the show today, he's really hit a nerve with me when he said it's out of hand or whatever he said. It must be scary as hell. John, the list is long. John, the list is long and getting longer. How about sofas and mattresses in the front garden? People just dump them there. You're right. How could you do that? How could you? I mean, why do you do that? And see, this is the other thing that Bill Bratton told me. He said one of the problems with zero tolerance, they started getting complaints from the middle classes because they were told you cannot skateboard or you can't free skate down the what do they call it, the sidewalks, because that's not fair. You might knock somebody over. It's for pedestrians only. Those middle class twerps started to complain. Bill Bratton gave him short shrift and gave him a quick fine for their impudence, which is what you have to do. You see, because we all have to play our part. If we're not graffitiing, but if we're dropping litter, it's like people who smoke. They think they've got a God-given right, because that's been in their mouth, for them just to leave their fag end in a park, or the worst thing ever, on a beach. These people disgust me. They're yobs. And if that's you should feel guilty. Ginger Maisie says, you're right, John. Thank you very much indeed. Where have you been? Slapping a bird's bottom. Jenrick, that's the name of the next guy. Jenrick and the Conservatives are trying to close the stable door after a horse has bolted. It's too little, too late. Now, I'm glad you brought that up, because somebody on Twitter was saying earlier, well, it's all right for Jenrick. He was in government for the best part of 14 years. Well, he was. And he did nothing. He wasn't in charge, but that's no excuse. But at least he's trying now. And I do not buy into the too little too late as an excuse. We need to demand it of our politicians. We don't want to live in this shit and this squalor and this filth and this crime. What about Birmingham? The blooming bin strike is still going on. I was watching Midlands Today this morning. Incredible. Why hasn't anyone sorted it out? I feel sorry, almost for the Brummies. I feel sorry for them. Unless they're Aston Villa supporters, then I don't give it out. Anyway, enough. I'm joking, right? Your views matter. 6 likes. We normally get a lot more than that, but then it isn't the 6:30 show at the moment. Jackie says it all stems from a lack of discipline. You are right. The woke that don't want teachers telling off their children. A whole generation grew up believing they were untouchable, and now their children are even worse. That is a brilliant point. That is a brilliant point. I think it was also the demise of the school uniform, the blazer. Whoever said it was okay that a school uniform could be a sweatshirt? I know on lots of levels it's more practical. But it's not a uniform, is it? A uniform is a blazer and a tie. And I hated a tie because I've always been so fat round the neck. I hated it. But you did it. I told you before about Ken Cook, my PE teacher. 1 speck of mud on your pumps. You go, take it off. And you had to take off your right pump, give it to him. And he gave you 2 on the arse. Didn't hurt that much. But it made sure that you did whiten your pumps next time you came to school or to PE. What's wrong with that? These basic discipline things. There was a thing the other day. Did you see that? The army are no longer allowed to shout at the squaddies. No longer allowed to shout at them because it might trigger them. What? This is the crazy, bizarre world we've got to. Getting back to cannabis for a moment, I do want to tell you about my experience I'll tell you where it started, San Francisco. There was always my ambition in life to get to San Francisco, and I was lucky enough to go. What a beautiful city. Absolutely wrecked and inhabited now by lowlife. You know the old streets of San Francisco, the trams and the rest of it. We used to watch it on the telly, didn't we? What's happened is, because they had a liberal governor in California for so long, and I'd probably do this if I was homeless living in America. Loads of homeless people and druggies moved to Frisco because they have these shopping trolleys. You may have seen, there's always one in the Sunday papers with ex-Baywatch babe now living in a shopping trolley. She's not living in the shopping trolley, but she pushes the shopping trolley around with all her worldly goods in it. And then what they do is they just sit next to it and go to sleep because it's so warm most of the time. Sometimes get a bit of rain in San Francisco or damp, but that's what they do. And then they're all on that zombie drug and the I can't remember what it's called now. You know, the sedative. And so you walk past people and they're standing there like, it's like James O'Brien's audience. They're transfixed. And this is what's happened. And Frisco was doing really well. Lots of people, lots of new industries, lots of high tech. A lot of the high tech people are now moving out because of the way San Francisco's gone. And I thought, God, that was bad. Then we went down to Santa Monica. And in Santa Monica, the stench of skunk is almost intolerable or unbelievable because they've legalized it or decriminalized it, whatever. I don't want London to become that. It's almost become that. Oh, and when I go down to my local cafe, you walk back up the street and you can smell dope. I don't think that's a good thing for society, especially not at 9 o'clock or 9:30 in the morning. Are you having it for breakfast? But we've allowed this to happen because we have, as Jackie said a minute ago, we have no discipline in society. No discipline whatsoever. How do you put that right? Well, you don't put it right by being even more liberal. That's for sure. Mark says, I pick up litter all the time. It's jealous people who don't own property. They trash their own space and the areas they're jealous of. Sorry, that's my class chip. Oh, I think you're talking nonsense. I'm sure there are people who don't own houses who drop litter, but I'm also sure there's people who do own their own houses and drop loads of litter as well, especially smokers. So I think that is ridiculous, Mark. But, you know, you're entitled to your opinion. How about making David Lammy pay for his own Jaffa cakes? That saved the public a canny penny. Yeah, he spent $7,000 for one meeting. And then he goes on to say, no, this isn't Lammy. He says, the stench of skunk is absolutely everywhere now. Yeah, well, this is what I've been talking about. We've got to get on top of this. I'm not trying to be, let's go back to the 50s. But when we complain about people coming into this country who don't respect our way of life or don't obey the rules, etc., sometimes don't we have to look in the mirror and say, are we doing our bit? I'd like to have your opinion on that. I'm going to finish in a second. Hi, John. I'm going from a summer holiday to San Francisco this September. You've just killed my American dream. I'm sorry. I just tell it as it is. That said, Mark, there are still beautiful things in San Francisco. This one's not so beautiful, but you must do it. Go across to Alcatraz before they turn it back into a prison, which is what Trump's going to do. It's a fascinating place to visit. And also, if you get the opportunity when you go to Alcatraz, go in the morning when it's foggy, because you hear the horns blowing on the ship. And it reminds you of all those TV detective series and films that you've seen in Frisco. Also, go across the bridge to the other bit. It's an Italian bit. I don't know what they call it. There's a special name for it. That is absolutely beautiful. And you've got to go down a big steep hill. There's a hill, which is like this, that you drive down in a taxi. Superb. And you've got to see Robin Williams' house. Not Robbie Williams, Robin Williams, the greatest comic actor probably ever, or film actor for sure. So there's still a lot of things to do in San Francisco, but it's not what it was, and we could learn lessons from it. But that was because liberals have been in charge. Anything goes, literally. Anyway, that was my view of it. Ronnie Hurst says spot on, and Seaside of Mark says I'll do those things. Good. I'm finishing. Well, that was, I say, an impromptu one. I was getting a bit wound up. I hadn't spoken for a day or so because of my bloody tooth. And I thought, well, I'll just get it. I mean, you see, I've got my old tatty T-shirt on. I haven't had a shave. I might try and smarten up for the next show, which is at 6:30, if you want to join me again. Talking about Starmer, talking about Farage. I'm asking the question, who do you trust? I put a poll up about this on my YouTube page. So have a look at that. It's Jon Gaunt TV. Don't forget, if you go there, you can also, you can subscribe, but that's free to become a member of my page, or you can indeed donate some money if you fancy. All helps. Stops me living in a trolley in San Francisco singing Scooby-Dooby-Doo, big issue. Ginger Macy says liberals are just anarchists by another name. Why do we bend over backwards for illegals when the minority just don't care about our values? It's sad. But what are our values? We're increasingly living in a dump, Ronnie, is what I'd say to you. Right, that's me finished. If you like it, make sure you tell all your friends. And the most important thing, as I say in all shows, if you've got kids, give them a kiss, give them a hug. Hey, hey, hey. Don't forget to tell them you love them. And I'll be back at 6:30 with me special Starmer. It's the big one. Starmer versus Farage. Who do you trust? Thanks for watching or listening. See you later.